Miss Simpson, and it's time for reading today. We are going to read Gregor the Overlander, and we are on chapter 18. So before we get started, I want to review some things with you, and we're going to look for them while we read. So let's go ahead and talk about some figurative language. Figurative language is words and sentences that the author uses to get you to picture things in a book. So one of the things that an author might use is can you think of one? A simile. A simile is when we compare things using like or as. So we, in our Kahoot from Wednesday, we did a Kahoot and we talked about similes and metaphors and hyperboles. Well, some of you guys were thinking this was a simile. This is what you thought. I like tacos. I like tacos is not a simile. Now, yes, like is in that sentence, but you forgot the first part of the definition for a simile. You have to compare things using like or as. So in this case, we're not comparing anything, so it is not a simile. So check out this sentence. You are as cool as a cucumber. It's talking about this person, whoever you is, being as cool as a cucumber. So it's comparing you to a cucumber, right? So, and it's using as. So this is a simile. I like tacos is not a simile, but you're as cool as a cucumber. That is a simile. So the author's trying to get you to picture here and get you to understand how cool this person actually is by comparing them to a cucumber. All right. Another one that we talked about on Wednesday during our meeting is a metaphor. This is just when you compare two things, not using like or as. So if I said, you are a walking dictionary. This is a metaphor. It's comparing you to a walking dictionary. The author's trying to get you to understand that this person right here knows a lot of words. They know a lot of words. They have spicy vocabulary, but it's not actually using like or as. It is a metaphor trying to get you to picture some things. Something else that we talked about on Wednesday is a hyperbole. A hyperbole is an exaggerated statement. You guys are incredible at exaggerated statements because you always say, I am starving to death. This is something I hear all the time. I am starving to death. You're not starving to death. You're hungry, but you're not starving to death. Or your mom might have said, I've told you that. I've told you to clean your room 1,000,000 times. She probably hasn't told you to clean it 1,000,000 times, maybe 20 times, maybe 10 times, but not 1,000,000. That's a hyperbole, an exaggerated statement. Something else we talked about on Wednesday is an alliteration, and that is when you have a repeated beginning sound. Authors use alliteration to draw your attention to certain parts of the story or the book. So Sally sold seashells by the seashore. That is an alliteration. My name is Sarah Simpson. I am an alliteration. My S and my S are alliterations. Sarah Simpson, or Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. That's an alliteration. So when you're looking at words, see if you can find an alliteration. So cool as a cucumber, the C's, that could be an alliteration. It's also a simile, but it could be an alliteration too. So this is when we have a repeated beginning sound. I have two more to remind you of before we start reading, and try to find some in Gregor the Overlander. One is personification. That is when we give human qualities to something that isn't human. So I am, for our definition, just going to put human qualities. So if I was to say the lightning danced across the sky, lightning can't actually dance, can it? No, lightning can't actually dance. So that's personification. We're giving human qualities of dancing to lightning, and lightning can't dance. Finally, onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is a sound word. Boom, bang, pow. Onomatopoeia is a sound word. Boom, bang, pow, crash, kazam, kazoo, whatever it is. It's a sound word. And authors do that to spark your interest, get you looking at that to draw attention to certain parts of the story, certain parts of the book. They use onomatopoeias. I haven't seen very many in fiction books, but a lot of the time I see them in comic books or comic strips. So today we are going to read chapter 18 of Gregor the Overlander. And while we're reading, we're going to try to see if we can find any similes, metaphors, personification, any of those things. Now, I am going to stop if I see one, but if you see one that I don't, and you message me on Canvas and say, hey, Miss Simpson, you missed whatever it is, you missed the simile, and you'll have to tell me what it was. You missed the simile in Gregor the Overlander, and you'll have to tell me what the simile is. So if you can do that, I will give you 5 tickets. So if I'm reading and I don't catch a simile and you catch it, send me the simile, tell me that I missed it, and I'll give you 5 tickets if you can figure it out. All right, so we are going to read chapter 18. Yesterday, we stopped on chapter 17 when Queen Wavox opened her mouth and put her fangs on Luxa's neck. Remember, they're trying to escape the big spun spider web. And Luxa was doing that big tailspin thing where she was like zooming around and trying to cut it all up. And Queen Wavox captured her and put her fangs on her neck. So we're going to read chapter 18. Remember, we're trying to find similes, metaphors, personification, all those incredible things in this chapter. If you find something that I don't, it could be a simile, a metaphor, personification, any of them, send it to me in Canvas inbox and I will give you 5 whole tickets. All right, let's do this. Gregor's mouth dropped open in horror. Luxa was seconds away from dying. She knew it too. She was writhing in terror, trying to bite through the silk rope at her wrist with her teeth, but it was too strong. He felt around desperately for a weapon. What did he have? Diapers? Cookies? Oh, why hadn't they given him a sword? He was the stupid warrior, wasn't he? His fingers dug in the leather bag and closed around the root beer can. Root beer! He yanked out the can, shaking it with all his might. Attack! Attack! He yelled. Just as the fangs were about to pierce Lux's throat, he flew up and popped the soda can top. The stream of root beer shot out and smacked the Spider Queen right in the face. She dropped Luxa and began to claw at her 6 eyes. Luxa fell and was swept up by her bat. They joined the rest of the Underlanders who were fighting their way back to help. Blade wheel, commanded Solovit, and the bats formed into the tight flying circle that had surrounded Gregor when he tried to escape from the stadium. The humans extended their swords straight out to the sides, and the formation began to move through the air like a buzzsaw. Ooh, I found a simile. The formation began to move through the air like a buzzsaw. It's not actually a buzzsaw, so it's comparing their formation to a buzzsaw. It's not a buzzsaw. It's just comparing the two things. It's trying to get you to picture what it looked like. So if you've never seen a buzzsaw, it doesn't really help you out all that much. But let me see if I can find one for you just so you can see it. A buzzsaw. So it's comparing their formation, how they're flying and how they're cutting things up, to a buzzsaw. And a buzzsaw looks like this. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like this. So Gregor would be in the middle. They have their swords all on the outside, and they're spinning real fast. So there you go. That's our first simile. Let's see if you can catch one without me noticing it. Let's go. Boots's unearthly shrieks were causing many of the spiders to curl up in cowering balls. Whether it was the noise, the blade wheel, or the fear of the root beer, Gregor didn't know. All he knew was that in a few minutes they were flying free and leaving the spiders far behind. Gregor unclenched his legs when he realized he was probably squeezing the life out of his bat. In one hand, he still held the half-empty can of root beer. He would have taken a drink if he'd thought he could swallow. Boots's screams soon became whimpers. She put her head on his shoulder and crashed. She'd been so upset, she still made little gasping sounds in her sleep. Gregor turned and placed a kiss on her curly head. Luxa was stretched out on her bat's back, alive but wiped out. He saw Solivit and Vicus flying near her, speaking. She nodded but didn't sit up. They took the lead, and the bats sped even faster into the darkness. They flew a long time down deserted passages. Gregor saw no sign of life, either animal or plant. Eventually, Solivit and Vicus waved them down, and the party landed in a vast cavern at the mouth of the tunnel. Everybody practically fell off the bats and just lay on the ground. Timp and Tick seemed almost comatose from fear. The bats staggered together and pressed into a tight, trembling knot. After a while, Gregor heard himself speak up. So, isn't it time I had a sword? There was a moment of silence, then all the Underlanders burst out laughing. They went on and on. Gregor didn't really get the joke, but he laughed along with them, feeling the darkness drain out of his body. The laughter woke Boots, who rubbed her eyes and said cheerfully, "Where's Spider?" Somehow, that set everybody off again. Pleased with the response, Boots kept repeating, "Where's Spider? Where's Spider?" to appreciative laughter. "Spider, go bye-bye," said Gregor finally. "How about a cookie?" "Yes," said Boots without a trace of anger over the earlier cookie incident. That was one great thing about her. Once she'd melted down and napped, she transformed back into her own sweet self again. When they realized the princess did not in fact hate them, Timp and Tick rallied and ran around playing tag with her. Mara started to prepare food, but Solivit ordered him to lie down and prop up his leg. She and Vicus made dinner while Henry and Marith played some kind of card game. Gregor went over to Luxa, who was sitting on a stone ledge. He sat beside her, and he could feel she was still shaking. "How are you doing?" he asked. "I'm fine," she said in a tight voice. "That was really cool, that coiler thing you did," he said. "It was my first time in a real web," confessed Luxa. "Mine too. Of course, in the Overlander, spinners are small, and we don't call them our neighbors," said Gregor. Luxa grimaced. "We don't mix much with spinners." "Well, that's probably a good thing. I mean, who wants to mix with somebody who spends the whole time thinking about drinking you?" Gregor said. Luxa looked shocked. "You would not joke, so had the queen trapped you." "Hey, I was hanging there yelling for an hour before you guys decided to show up," said Gregor, "and they really hated me." Luxa laughed. "I could tell, but Queen Wavok said," she paused. Her next words were an effort. "Thank you." "For what?" he said. "Saving me with the... What is this weapon?" She gestured to the root beer can. "It's not a weapon, it's a root beer," Gregor said. He took a swig. Luxa looked alarmed. "Should you drink it?" she asked. "Sure, try it," he said. Gregor offered her the can. She tentatively took a sip and her eyes widened. "It bubbles on the tongue," she said. "Yeah, that's why it exploded. I shook up a lot of the bubbles. It's safe now. It's just like water. Go ahead, you can finish it," he said, and she continued to take tiny, curious sips. "Anyway, I owed you one," he said. "You saved me from that rat the first night, so we're even." Luxa nodded but seemed troubled. "There's one other thing. I should not have struck you for trying to escape. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry I called your home creepy. It's not like it's all creepy. Some of it's great," he said. "Am I creepy to you?" asked Luxa. "Oh no, creepy's like spiders and rats and, things that make chills run down your spine. You're just difficult," said Gregor, trying to be honest but not flat out rude. "You too. You are difficult too. Make do things," said Luxa. Gregor nodded, but he rolled his eyes when she wasn't looking. It was hard to imagine anyone more stubborn than Luxa. Vicus called them all to dine, and even the roaches felt comfortable enough to join the circle. "I am drinking Gregor's spinner weapon," announced Luxa, holding up the root beer can. He had to explain about the root beer all over again, and then everybody had to try a sip. When the can got to Boots, he said, "Well, that's the end of that," thinking she guzzled down the last few swallows, but instead she poured out 2 little puddles. "Big bugs," she said, pointing to the first puddle. "Bats," she said, pointing to the second. Both sets of animals obligingly drank up the root beer. "I believe Boots to be a natural ambassador," said Vicus, smiling. "She treats all with an equality I myself aspire to. Come, let us eat." Everyone dug in like they'd never seen food before. When he'd slowed down enough to actually taste his food, Gregor asked the question that had been worrying him since they escaped from the spiders. Can we still go on the quest without the spinners? That is the question, said Vicus. That is the question we must all consider. Clearly, we cannot expect any spinners to join us willingly. We should have seized to when we had the chance, said Henry darkly. The prophecy says the spinners must assent, said Vicus. However, we know the rats have taken many spinners prisoner. Perhaps we can free a few and persuade them to accompany us. I have often had good results with spinners. But you will not be there, Vicus, Sullivan said quietly. What do you mean? Asked Gregor, feeling his mouth to go dry. Vicus paused a moment, taking in the group. It is time for those of us not named by the prophecy to return home. Meredith, Sullivan, and I will fly after we rest. Gregor saw his surprise mirrored on Luxa and Henry's faces. Nothing in the prophecy forbids you to come, said Luxa. We are not meant to be here, and beyond that, we have a war to fight, said Sullivan. The thought of going anywhere without Vicus and Sullivan filled Gregor with panic. But you can't leave us. I mean, we don't even know where we're going, said Gregor. You guys know where we're going? He asked Luxa and Henry, and they both shook their heads. See? You will manage. Henry and Luxa are well trained, and you show great resourcefulness, said Sullivan. She spoke simply and definitely. She was thinking of the war, of the bigger picture, not of them. Gregor instinctively knew he could not change her mind. He turned to Vicus. You can't leave. We need you. We need someone who knows what they're doing. He looked at Luxa and Henry to see if they were insulted, but both were waiting anxiously for Vicus's reply. They know, thought Gregor. They act tough, but they know we can't get through this by ourselves. I do not plan to leave you stranded in the Deadland, said Vicus. Oh, great. We're in the Deadland, said Gregor. So you're going to what? Draw us a map? No, I have arranged a guide for you, said Vicus. A guide? Asked Henry. A guide? Echoed Luxa. Vicus took a deep breath as if he was about to begin a long explanation, but then someone interrupted him. Well, I prefer to think of myself as a legend. I suppose guide will do, said a deep, world-weary voice from the dark. Gregor shot his flashlight beam toward the sound. Okay, pause. Let's make a prediction. I didn't find any figurative language, but I want to make a prediction. Who do you think is going to be their guide? Spinner? A rat? A cockroach? Another human? Who do you think's their guide? All right, well, let's keep reading and find out. Leaning in the mouth of the tunnel was a rat with a diagonal scar across his face. It took just a moment for Gregor to recognize him as the rat Vicus had knocked into the river. And that's the end of chapter 18. And that brings us to part 3, and it is called The Rat. Dun, dun, dun! There's a rat! Rats hate them! Rats kill them! Rats attack them! What are they gonna do with a rat? Oh my gosh, I'm a little freaked out. So I only found one simile when we were reading. Did you find anything else? If you did, send it to me in chat. If you did, send it to me in chat and you get 5 tickets. Whoop, whoop. So today for your assignment, you're going to answer questions on chapters 16, 17, and 18. Those are the past 3 chapters that we have read. So let's real quick do a brief summary together on what happened in 16, 17, and 18, just in case you don't remember. Okay, so we're looking at this. This is when, in chapter 16, was when Gregor got captured by the spinners. He's sitting in his web and he's captured by the spinners. So they're talking, they're by themselves, they find the spinners, and then chapter 17 is when Meredith, Henry, Vicus, Sullivan, Luxa showed up to save them. But the spiders ended up rejecting their offer of coming with them on the journey, and Vicus and all of them were trapped in a web. So then at the end of chapter 17 was when Luxa performed that spinny thing to get them out and rescue them, and Queen of Vox almost killed her. Chapter 18 was when Gregor saved Luxa and they escaped the spinners, and they all tried some root beer. And then at the very end, we found out that there's going to be a rat now guiding Henry, Luxa, the bats, and the cockroaches and Gregor and Boots on their journey because Vicus, Sullivan, and Marith have to go home to fight the war against the rats. So I'm a bit confused. They're fighting a war against the rats, but a rat's going to guide them against what's going on. I don't know what's happening, but I'm really excited. So right down below, there are some questions. There's 2 pages, and you've seen it before, but this one is just over chapters 16, 17, and 18. So remember, that's when they get captured, they escape, and they now have a new guide, and it's a rat. All right, guys, I love y'all so much, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Bye.